Picture this. It's the height of the Cold War. The vast, icy waters of the North Atlantic are a chessboard for two superpowers. On one side, the formidable Soviet Navy, a steel behemoth of cruisers, destroyers, and aircraft carriers, designed to project power and dominate the seas. Their defense network is a layered, overlapping web of radars, surface-to-air missiles, and rapid-fire cannons, believed by many to be nearly impenetrable. On the other side, the United States Navy, facing the daunting task of neutralizing this threat if war ever broke out. Their solution wasn't a bigger ship or a faster jet. It was a missile. A very, very smart missile. The BGM-109 Tomahawk. This wasn't just another piece of hardware. It was a revolution in naval warfare. The story of how the Tomahawk was designed to outwit the entire Soviet defensive strategy is a fascinating tale of technological cat and mouse, a chess game played at Mach 0.7. So, how did this unassuming-looking cruise missile become the stuff of nightmares for Soviet naval commanders? First, let's understand the Soviet defense doctrine. Take a layered defense. Imagine concentric circles of protection around their fleet. The outermost layer consisted of long-range fighter jets, like the MiG-31, equipped with powerful look-down, shoot-down radars, ready to intercept incoming bombers and strike aircraft hundreds of miles away. Closer in, you had the fleet's own long-range surface-to-air missiles, or SAMs, like the S-300F Fort, the naval version of the legendary S-300. These could engage targets from over the horizon. Inside that ring were medium-range SAMs, and finally, as a last resort, the close-in weapon systems, or CIWS. These are essentially naval Gatling guns, like the AK-630, firing thousands of rounds per minute to shred anything that got too close. It was a brutal, seemingly foolproof system. The American strategy for attacking this fortress at sea had traditionally been the Alpha Strike, a massive, coordinated attack with dozens of carrier-based aircraft. But this was incredibly risky. It meant sending pilots and billion-dollar jets straight into that meat grinder of defenses. Losses were expected to be high, maybe unacceptably high. The Navy needed a new playbook. They needed a weapon that could bypass this layered defense, not just punch through it. Enter the Tomahawk. Its genius lay in its ability to completely subvert the Soviet strategy. Instead of coming in high and fast like a traditional anti-ship missile or a strike aircraft, the Tomahawk did the exact opposite. It flew low, and I mean incredibly low, using a sophisticated guidance system called TERCOM, or terrain contour matching. The Tomahawk could skim just 50 to 100 feet above the waves. So, why was flying low so important? It all comes down to the physics of radar and the curvature of the Earth. A radar system on a ship's mast, even a tall one, can't see over the horizon. An object flying very low stays below that radar horizon for a much, much longer time. For the Soviet fleet's long-range radars, a Tomahawk was effectively invisible until it was almost on top of them. It completely bypassed that outer layer of defense. The long-range SAMs and the interceptor jets were rendered useless because they simply could unsee the threat coming. By the time the Tomahawk popped up over the horizon, it was already well inside the engagement range of the long-range systems. The Soviet fleet's reaction time was slashed from minutes to mere seconds. This is where the Tomahawk's second brilliant feature came into play. Its small size and low the missile had a very small radar cross-section. To a radar operator, it didn't look like a menacing F-14 Tomcat. It looked more like a seabird. This made it incredibly difficult for the medium-range search radars to lock onto, but the Soviets knew about low-flying threats. That's what their close-in systems were for. So, the American strategists added another layer of complexity. The Tomahawk wasn't just a lone wolf. It was designed to attack in swarms, a concept they called saturation attack. Imagine you're a Soviet radar operator. Suddenly, your screen doesn't show one or two small blips. It shows dozens, all appearing at once, all screaming toward your fleet from multiple directions. This is the Tomahawk Land Attack Missile, or TLAM, in its anti-ship variant. They would be launched from submarines, cruisers, and destroyers, all timed to arrive at the target area simultaneously. This is where the Soviet system would begin to break down. Even the most advanced fire control system can only track and engage a certain number of targets at once. This is called channel capacity. If you have a system that can engage, say, 4 targets simultaneously, and you throw 20 missiles at it, 16 are getting through, guaranteed. The sheer number of incoming Tomahawks would overwhelm the ship's computers, the radars, and the human operators. The missiles would be programmed with different attack profiles. Some might pop up at the last second to dive down on a ship's deck. Others might continue their sea-skimming path to strike the hull at the waterline. This variation made it even harder for defensive systems to predict the attack and prioritize targets. The chaos would be immense. Which target is the real threat? Which one do you shoot first? While the defenders are trying to figure this out, the clock is ticking down to impact. And there was another, even more cunning aspect. The Tomahawk could think, well, not like a human, but its digital scene matching guidance system. DSMAC was again in the terminal phase of its flight. The missile's onboard camera would compare a stored digital image of the target ship with what it was actually seeing. This allowed it to identify and strike a specific, high-value part of the ship, like the bridge, the radar mast, or the missile launchers. It wasn't just about hitting the ship. It was about hitting it where it would hurt the most, disabling its ability to fight back. This was a devastating psychological blow. Soviet sailors couldn't just rely on their layers of steel and electronics. They now faced an intelligent weapon that could appear from nowhere, in overwhelming numbers, and precisely target their ship's most vulnerable points. The impact of the Tomahawk on Soviet naval strategy was profound. They were forced to reevaluate their entire air defense doctrine. They had built a wall, and the Americans had simply engineered a weapon that could flow underneath it. The Soviets scrambled to develop better look-down radars and faster-reacting close-in weapon systems. They invested in airborne, early warning aircraft, like the Yak-44, trying to push their radar horizon further out to detect these sea-skimming threats earlier. The entire arms race in naval defense technology was kicked into a higher gear, all because of this one missile. The Tomahawk wasn't just a piece of technology. It was a strategic masterpiece. It exploited the fundamental weakness of ship-based radar the horizon. It used swarm tactics to overwhelm a defense system built to engage a smaller number of larger targets. And it used intelligent guidance to deliver a precise, crippling blow. It didn't just beat the Soviet layer defense, it made it conceptually obsolete. It forced a complete rethink of how a naval battle would be fought. The Cold War thankfully never turned hot, and we never saw a full-scale Tomahawk swarm attack against a Soviet carrier group, but the missile's legacy was cemented in later conflicts. During Operation Desert Storm in 1991, the world watched live on TV as Tomahawks flew through the streets of Baghdad with unbelievable precision, heralding a new era of warfare. The Tomahawk missile was the perfect example of asymmetric strategy. Instead of building a bigger shield, the US built a smarter arrow. It was a weapon that didn't play by the enemy's rules. It wrote its own. Be flying low, attacking in swarms, and thinking for itself. The Tomahawk outsmarted one of the most formidable defensive networks ever created, ensuring American naval dominance for decades to come. It remains a testament to the idea that in warfare, it's not always the biggest or the fastest that wins the day, but the smartest. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this deep dive into military tech and strategy as fascinating as I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Let us know in the comments what other legendary weapon systems you'd like us to cover. See you in the next one.